Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about painting and how to make your displays pop by using some painting techniques that'll really highlight the work that you've already put into your display bases. As most of you know, I'm doing a work in progress already on the Department 56 Peanuts Trick-or-Treat Lane house and accessory. I've already started the build, so it's time to paint it, and so I want to bring you guys along to show you exactly how I do that. So let's get started. Okay, so I've got the display base that I've already made in front of you here so you can see what I'm looking at. The measurements of this display are a little bit smaller. It's a vignette that I'm going to put underneath one of my other displays on the table. So I showed you on the last video the cobblestone road, so I've already cut that to size. That will go down here and be glued down. This is the XPS foam. It's a different color. It's what Lowe's is stocking today. Instead of the pink, they went to sort of a green color. That's going to be a curb that's going to sit down here in front of the road. I have not painted that, but all the painting that I do initially is just a flat black. And what I've done is I go to Lowe's or Home Depot and just grab a gallon of the least expensive flat black paint that they've got. They've got to mix it for you. It takes them, 5 or 10 minutes. You bring it home and you're good to go. So I've got enough paint to probably, at least black, to last me, good grief, probably another 5 years or so with a gallon of it. And so you just want to cover everything with a real solid black layer of paint. That's going to help to get that base layer down, and it's going to help to highlight when you start painting in different colors. The paints that you use for black on any other items really doesn't matter. You can use the big gallon. I think we bought this at the dollar store, and so it's just a flat black paint. It's really cheap, and I'm going to start with that since I didn't want to bring the gallon in here. And essentially, just going to pour some on a paper plate. Nothing too fancy here for sure. Any paintbrush will work. We picked up a whole bunch of crafting brushes from Michael's and Hobby Lobby and things like that. So any brush will work. And really, we're just going to put a good coat of black all over this foam. It doesn't need to be pretty. I put it on pretty thick initially just to get the good coverage, and we can come back later and catch anything that we missed or darken it up in certain areas or things like that. So don't spend too much time on this because it's essentially just a base layer. It's not going to make much of a difference if it's completely covered or 99% covered. It's all going to look the same when it's done. Okay, and while that paint is drying, it's gonna look like this, obviously, when it's done. The retaining wall, the brick wall, the sidewalk, and the stairs are ready to paint. And what we use is, it's a Craft Smart brand that you get, I believe, at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Any big box craft store will use it. I use 3 colors when I'm painting my stonework or my sidewalks. The first is called dark gray. It's the darkest of the colors that I'm going to use. Once that is coated, and it's not a thick coat, it's a fairly light coat with some dry brushing. The next coat that I'll use once that's somewhat dry is this is Anita's. These are all acrylic paints. Again, we got it from one of the big box hobby stores. This one is called Rainy Day Gray. It's a little lighter in color than the dark gray. And then finally, when that dries, a really light coat, dry brushing technique of just white. And that's going to highlight the edges of the sidewalk, the edges and the tops of the stonework, along this section here, along this section here, and then again on your stairs, just to make it, give it that little extra pop that you're looking for to make it realistic. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I've cleaned out my brush. I'm using the exact same brush. I'm going to put a little of the dark gray on my plate. I coat my brush. This is not as dry as the other colors that I'll use, but you can see how we start to go on with it. It's just, and you don't have to, the row's gonna be covered up, so you don't really have to worry a whole lot about how that looks, but you know, this will take many, I say many coats, it really won't. It goes on pretty quick. So, you know, 3 or 4 coats like this, and your sidewalk will look to be about where you want it. But you want some of that black to show through. That's gonna help to age your sidewalk, give it the depth and the texture that you're looking for. And so you just keep going with this technique here. You obviously want to get the side. Now the road, the cobblestone will cover most of that there, so we don't really have to worry about it, but you do want to get the side of the sidewalk in the same fashion here. Okay, I've put the rest of it on. I had to turn it around a little bit so I could see some of the areas that I was getting. But this is what it looks like with the first coat of the dark gray on. That's the only coat that I'm going to put on of that color. And so now I'm going to move on to, and it's still a little bit wet. I mean, I don't know if you can see the glare, probably not, but it's a little bit wet, but it's not overly wet. It's not completely fresh, but I'm gonna move on to the rainy day gray. It's the lighter gray. Any color combination of a dark gray and then a light gray will work. This is just the color that I chose, that I like. It seems to work for what I do. So I'm gonna put a little bit of that out. Again, you don't need much of this because this is gonna be more of a dry brush technique. So the way that works is I grab a little bit of paint and then I start to take a lot of that off, and I can actually bring it over here and start to bring it off on this napkin, this paper towel. And then you just start to go really lightly with a little bit of paint onto this sidewalk. And you can see it's starting to lighten up quite a bit. That's the look you're going for. Okay, now it's time to use the white, which is the final step. Every village that I've created so far, this is the same technique that I've used. I've used a dark gray, a lighter gray, and then a white for highlighting. I'm also using a different brush. It's a little more coarse, a little stiffer than the other one, and I'm really gonna focus on dry brushing here. You only want a little bit of paint on. If you get too much, it's okay, let it dry. You can go back over with gray. We're also gonna do a wash black wash, and I'll show you how to mix that up and how to apply it once this is done and dry. And that'll help to give it a dirtier, weathered, more realistic look. But let's put the white on. So I'm gonna take just a little bit, I've just got a little drop of paint there. So I'm just gonna take a little bit on the brush. And then I'm really going to wipe most of that off. And then just start here. And I'm doing this a little backwards, upside down for me. I would obviously have this facing me if this were, I wasn't doing it for the video. But you sort of see the effect that we're going for here. It really helps to make things pop. You can sort of see it's almost a worn effect. And so you see how far that paint went on the top of those bricks. So we're going to do the same thing on the sidewalk. And you can also add a little bit to the sidewalk, just very soft brushes here. It's almost too much paint at this point, but the wash will take care of that. Okay, so that's about the look you're going for. On this project here with a white, it doesn't take much. I'll flip it around and off camera I'll do a little more highlighting so I can see it. And then once this dries, I'll show you how to do the wash. Okay, I've highlighted to my liking. You can see that that will be the finished product minus the wash. We still have to do that. I also, off camera, finished the curb. Put a little texture on it with the foil technique that I showed you, and then painted it to match. So once this is all together, we'll do this after the wash and let it dry overnight, but this will be glued down, the road matting will be glued down. And so you can see how the road looks up against the sidewalk. Looks pretty good. It'll look better with a darker wash on it. And then we'll take and hot glue the curb down to the front like this once the road and matting is down, and then that will be somewhat of a finished look. Obviously this will, the curb will get the wash as well, and I will wash that before I put it on and glue it down because I don't want to get the wash on the roadway. And so that's how it's going to look when it's done, or at least close to how it's going to look, and then we're going to be ready to place the home on the base, trace around it, and put some grass down, which will be in the next tutorial video. So with that, let's go show you how to do the mix the wash and apply it. Okay, for the wash, I'm going to use the cheap dollar store paint, and there is no, I have no specific technique for this other than you just add some paint, and so. How much is too much? I don't know. Just squeeze in a little bit of paint. It's not much. It looks about like that. And then turn your faucet on. And so I've got this sort of a mixture here. And what I will do is take the paintbrush and then mix this up to where it's sort of a watery black mess. And then this will be used to put on the to the village. Okay, so I'm back at the table here. What you're really going to need a lot of is paper towels, right? Because when you start putting this on, it's gonna kind of go everywhere, and you don't want to let all of it sit on the project. So what you'll do is blot it to kind of get the look that you're looking for. So again, I use a little bit bigger brush, and I'm basically going to take the wash and just put it on, brush it in. Put a liberal amount. It's not critical that you go easy on it. Okay, and then once that's done, just kind of blot it and let it sit just like that. Now it may take a few coats. It's gonna run, so if I were to tilt it down, it'll run. That's okay. You want a dirtier look on this part anyway. And then to do the brickwork, you definitely are gonna have to tilt it up a little bit and do the same concept here. Same thing with the stairs. Okay, I'm gonna do the rest of this off camera so I can make sure that it's gonna look decent. You really need to tilt it way up and let the wash run down into the crevices there. And so same technique, I'll apply it and then blot it off, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Okay guys, here's the finished product. It's got the wash on it. It's still incredibly wet, so it's gonna have to go sit out in the garage for the remainder of the evening. I'll continue work on this tomorrow. I'm gonna put the road down. I'll show you how I do that, and then we'll put grass down. That'll be the next tutorial. So stay tuned for that. Guys, I hope this video was beneficial to show you how to paint your display bases to make them look a little more realistic. Once it dries, it'll take on a whole different look. Once the paint, while the paint's still wet, you're not gonna get the final effect. And then you can add to it or take away from it however you see fit once you've given it 8, 10, 24 hours to dry. You may want to change the look of it a little bit, but that's how I start every project. That's how I paint all of my brickwork. If the bricks are going to be a different color, I use the exact same technique, but I may mix a brown with a red to get more of a brick color. When I do that in a future build, I'll be sure to do a tutorial on that and show you exactly what I'm talking about. But hopefully you got something out of it. If you did, please smash that like button and subscribe. I certainly appreciate it. We'll see you next time.